An arrogant MMA champion thought humiliating a young black girl in the cage would boost her brand. She had no idea that inside those 8 steel walls, her career would end and a legend would be born. Downtown Los Angeles, a marble-floored training palace where membership cost more than 3 months of minimum wage. Cameras everywhere, trophy cases like altars. Victoria Cross undefeated featherweight champion stalked the mats like a queen who believed the sun rose just to catch her shadow. Her voice cut through the room. Look what wandered in, heads turned. There at the door, a 19-year-old with a scuffed gym bag and frayed sneakers. Quiet eyes, tight jaw, name Amara Johnson. This isn't a charity program, Victoria smirked. We train real athletes here. Not pity projects, a few chuckles, a few eye rolls. More phones tilted to record. Amar checked a folded printout. This is the youth scholarship address, right? A door opened. Coach Luis Ramirez ex-bantamweight, now part owner, stepped out with a clipboard. She's on the list, he said, approved, she trains here. The gym's temperature changed, the champion's smile didn't. Good, Victoria said, stepping forward, then let's see if she deserves it. 3 rounds in the cage, champion versus rookie. If the rookie lasts, she stays, if not. Victoria flicked her wrist to the door. Silence, phones up. Amara held her stare. I accept. Ramirez moved closer. Kid, you don't have to. I'm not here for charity, Amara said, calm, even, dead center in herself. For years, Victoria had turned arrogance into a business model, humiliating opponents on camera, reducing losses to camera angles, turning wins into click farms. Her latest post read, some are born to fight. Others are born to lose to me, 2 million followers. Sponsors lined up like satellites around her ego. What Victoria didn't know, Amar had left West Baltimore 6 months ago with a one-way bus ticket and $200. Nights cleaning offices, mornings bussing tables. A mattress on the floor of a shared room that smelled like bleach and burned rice. This scholarship wasn't a favor, it was an air pocket under deep water. Ramirez studied Amara's hands, no tremor, no fidget. Just stillness, the kind you see before a storm. Ever fought before? He asked. Amara's eyes lifted, define fought. Ramirez didn't smile, but he wanted to. By evening, #cage lesson trended locally. The promise of a public humiliation had its own gravity. Fighters texted friends, trainers called in favors. A couple of bloggers sniffed a headline. Victoria poured gasoline on it. Countdown to crushing the rookie, she posted, lips glossed, gloves slung over one shoulder. Comments flooded and send her home. Teach the black girl what real fighting is. Her brand feasted, the city sharpened its fork. The next afternoon, a man with cauliflower ears and the posture of old wars stepped into the gym. His eyes found Amara and froze. Kid? Elijah Brooks, underground legend. Stories about him traveled in whispers and stitches. Ramirez walked over. You two know each other, Elijah nodded. Since she was 9, he lowered his voice. Back then, she was called Shadow. Shadow, the room didn't react, but older fighters did. Names like that don't get invented. They get earned. Amara's jaw tightened. Uncle, not here, then where? Elijah shot back. When is the right time to stop pretending you're ordinary? Victoria filmed another story by the trophy case. Guys, she brought family, cute, they can hold her while she cries later. The comments were sugar for her blood. Sponsors checked in with heart emojis and fire. Ramirez watched Amara wrap her hands. No wasted motion, no peacocking. He recognized that economy, the language of people who only move to survive. He leaned on the cage wall. What are you not telling me? Amara kept rapping. That I didn't come this far to be content, Shadow. He asked. She paused. Then a name other people gave me when I was too busy trying to forget I existed. Baltimore wasn't backstory, it was weather. A mother with 2 jobs, a brother who went missing one winter and never came back, a girl who learned to read distance by watching fists. Amara hadn't come to chase fame, she'd come to learn a craft without bleeding in alleys for it. Victoria's manager, Mason, called from a glass office upstairs. "Careful with injuries," he said on speaker. "Sponsors love dominance, not lawsuits." Victoria laughed. "She won't touch me." She didn't see the glance Ramirez and Elijah exchanged. It said, "She has no idea." Elijah found Amara by the heavy bags. "You sure you want this circus?" Amara hit the bag once. The sound was clean. "I'm tired of being told where I belong." Elijah nodded at the cage. "Then make them measure the world by your reach." Ramirez ran her through sprawls, cage walks, pummeling. The cage kissed her shoulder and left a red line. He saw her wince and pushed through. "Again," he said. "Again," she repeated. He smiled, barely. "Say it like you mean it." Her eyes lifted. "Again." Upstairs, Victoria's makeup artist dusted highlighter over a face that had never lost. "You ready to crown a new meme?" Mason asked. Victoria stared at her reflection. "I'm the headline, she's the footnote." Somewhere below, a bag boomed like a drum. Victoria didn't look down. Two teens on mob duty paused to watch Amara drill footwork on the painted letters inside the cage. One whispered, "She moves different." The other, "Like she's not guessing." Amara finished her round and handed them each a bottle of water. "Keep your back straight when you mop. Protect your spine." They grinned like they'd been seen. Rumors gather muscle when no one knows the truth. By now, Shadow had grown wings. Some said she'd choked out a man twice her size. Others said she fought blindfolded. None of it mattered. What mattered was this: in a city that loved to watch people break, hope was being quietly passed hand to hand. On the main floor, Victoria circled Amara. "Hope you're good at apologizing." Amara didn't rise. "I don't talk the way you talk." Victoria smirked. "I'll teach you to listen." That night, a dive bar 10 blocks away. Two off-duty trainers argued over cheap wings. "She's a rookie," one said. "Victoria will ragdoll her." The other shook his head. "You didn't see her eyes." A busboy, one of the scholarship kids, cleared the table and whispered, "I did." Outside, Elijah walked Amara to the bus stop. Neon flickered on the wet pavement. "Tomorrow, she come like a flood," he said. "I can swim," Amara answered. "Floods don't drown the ones who learned how to float while starving," Elijah said, almost to himself. Amara's room was the size of a breath. She set her bag down, sat on the mattress, and held a photo of her mother. "Don't worry," she whispered. "I'm not fighting for attention, I'm fighting for space." In the hallway, a kettle whistled. A neighbor laughed. The city pressed its ear to her door and listened. Miles away, Victoria floated in her heated pool, scrolling comments like prayers. "End her career, show her place, humiliate the black girl." She smiled. Success had taught her a dangerous lie, that the world was already decided. Ramirez texted Amara, "Doors open at 8, no entourage." "No speeches, bring your lungs." She texted back, "I'm bringing silence." He put his phone down and whispered to the empty gym, "Let the cage be fair." Sunrise braided gold through the window grid. Amara arrived early, no cameras, no music. Just the hum of vents and the metallic smell of sweat dried into chain link. She touched the cage wall, it touched back. She didn't flinch. By opening time, the gym buzzed. A local podcast set up lights. A regional sports site arrived with a shaky tripod and big plans. Victoria walked in with an entourage and a laugh that scratched glass. Amara tied back her hair, eyes steady, mouth quiet, hands sure. The crowd couldn't tell if it was confidence or destiny. Sometimes they're the same thing. They didn't dim lights or blast music. This wasn't a pay-per-view. It was something stranger, a private place where ego had invited fate. Victoria stepped into the cage first, all grin and glitter, touching the fence like it belonged to her. Amara followed, no bounce, no swagger, just that stillness again, like a fuse that hadn't decided whether to burn or wait. Ramirez spoke like a judge. 3 rounds, amateur headgear for the rookie, for us gloves, No elbows, ref stoppage at my call. Clean fight, Victoria raised a glove. I'll keep it clean when I'm done. They touched gloves, Victoria pressed her knuckles to hard, a small announcement of contempt. Amara's eyes didn't move. Bell, Victoria flashed a high kick as a warning shot, then turned it into a jab cross, testing reach. Amara slid a half step, nothing big, just enough that the punch lost its address. She returned a feint that felt like a question mark. Victoria snorted, cute. Most rookies announce panic with their feet. Amara's feet told a different story. She was reading. Victoria chased. Amara gave her inches, not yards. Angles, not retreat. The crowd leaned in. The phones leaned closer. Victoria drove Amara into the fence. The thud echoed. Victoria dug for underhooks. Amara pummeled back one. Turi set her spine and slid out on a quarter turn. Two teens on mop duty forgot they were supposed to be invisible and shouted. The podcast mic picked it up. Victoria rolled her jaw. No danger yet, just irritation. Amara marked distance with a pawing-led hand, not to score, but to measure painter's tape across air. Ramirez caught himself smiling. This was craft, this was music without notes. People root for certainty until certainty gets boring, then they root for wonder. By the 2-minute mark, wonder had entered the room. Victoria overhand right fast, meant to stamp authority. Amara dipped outside, tapped calf kick, stepped away before the receipt arrived. Not damage, information. Clapper 10 seconds. Victoria tried to make a statement blitz. Flurry, loud hands. Amara smiled, not mockery, recognition. Bell. In the corner, Mason hissed, "She's downloading you." Victoria snapped back, "She's buffering." Elijah leaned through the fence. "You feel her rhythm?" Amara nodded. "She stutters after the cross." Ramirez kept it simple. "Two steps become one." Make her pay for the second. Victoria came out heavier, trying to bury Amara under force. Amara switched stance, southpaw, a new book. The champion blinked. People who switch well don't do it for decoration. Victoria feinted level change into a hook. Amara's right hand left the basement short, quiet, surgical. It kissed the jaw and withdrew like a secret. Victoria's legs glitched. The room gasped. The phones became eyes. Angry now, Victoria bullied forward. Amara let herself be crowded, then reversed position with a hip turn that looked like water changing its mind. Knee to thigh, shoulder pressure, a veteran's vocabulary from a girl who did dishes at 3 a.m. Upstairs, Mason's smile cracked. "Turn it into a brawl," he yelled, "dirty her up." But the cage had stopped listening to him. It listened to timing. Victoria shot double leg on raw will. She got hips briefly. Amara whizzed, sprawled, wrapped the neck like she'd been born knowing where chokes live. She didn't finish, she let go. Choice is a form of cruelty. A chant started, messy at first, then round. IMA, rah. IMA, rah. Victoria felt it like a draft under a locked door. She swung wide. Wide as a prayer you say when you don't believe in accuracy anymore. Amara's check hook opened a line above Victoria's eyebrow. Nothing dramatic, just red punctuation. The podcast camera zoomed so close it blurred, then refocused on consequence. Clips hit social in real time. The rookie is piecing her up. Black girl is cooking the champ. Who is this? Accounts that never agreed on anything agreed on one thing. They were witnessing a truth that hadn't been scheduled. Desperation has a playbook. Victoria tried to clinch and stall, then elbow on exit illegal under the agreed rules. Ramirez slammed the fence with his palm. Clean. Amara didn't flinch. She placed a left inside the right, tiny, exact. Victoria's legs betrayed her. She backpedaled into the fence and found it unforgiving. Amara didn't rush. Predators that rush get sloppy. She stepped, breathed, stepped. Jab, cross, hook, uppercut. For punches, 2 seconds, no fat. Victoria's eyes went glassy. Knee spoke a language called gravity. The cage heard it first. Ramirez moved in, Hands raised to protect both of them from what fairness looks like. But Victoria's chin lifted, stubborn. The heart has a few tricks it plays to avoid being humbled. Amara stepped off and pointed to the canvas, a gesture tiny as a comma. We're not done. The bell saved the champion from the truth she'd meet in 60 seconds. In Victoria's corner, cotton, Vaseline, panic under professionalism. Mason whispered a sponsor's name like a prayer. The cutman worked like time was a debt he could pay back. Across the cage, Amara rested her forearms on the fence, eyes on the floor, still as a statue that had decided to breathe. A reporter shoved a mic at Elijah between rounds. Who is she? Elijah looked at the camera. Where we're from, they called her Shadow. Not because she hid, because she arrived before your fear knew its name. The chant tripled in volume. Even people who don't believe in legends believe in names that feel like weather. Ramirez leaned in. She's chasing. Set the hook. Make the crowd your breath. Amara's lips barely moved. Yes, coach. Victoria charged as if speed could erase geometry. Amara planted, pivoted, slid the lead foot outside, aligned shoulder and intent. Overhand from Victoria, loaded with ego and prayer. Amara's counter rose through the space it left clean, vertical, a line drawn with a ruler. It touched the chin. Time hiccuped. Victoria's body finally told the truth her mouth never would. She folded slowly, as if kneeling to tie a shoe she'd never wear again. Ramirez stepped in, arms wide. Stop. Silence, then sound like a dam breaking. Amara crouched beside the fallen champion so the cameras saw it and no one could pretend later they'd imagined the words. Respect isn't earned by followers, she said. It's earned by how you lose. She stood, the crowd stood with her. Highlights detonated across timelines. Brands that had scheduled posts about Victoria switched to emojis with no captions. The podcast title changed mid-upload. Rookie Black Girl Stuns Champion in Clinical Masterclass. Ramirez closed his eyes and whispered thanks to every coach who taught him the difference between punishment and teaching. Upstairs, Mason answered 3 calls in 30 seconds. No, we didn't authorize this as a live stream. Yes, we're reviewing contractual morals clauses. No, you can't edit physics. In the center, Ramirez lifted Amara's hand. She looked almost embarrassed by gravity's agreement. The scholarship kids cried like something private had finally been seen in public. Elijah didn't clap. He pressed a fist to his chest and nodded at his niece. A mic appeared. Amara, what do you say to everyone who called you an amateur? She thought for a beat. Amateurs love the craft without money. I had to love it without safety. There's a difference, the reporter swallowed. What do you say to Victoria? Amara looked at the camera, not the champion. When you underestimate a black girl, you teach the world who you are. Victoria sat on a stool, towel over shoulders, silence heavy as armor that won't come off. A trainer said softly, head up. She obeyed, and for the first time in years, looked human. By sundown, to sponsors froze payments. One issued a statement about values, another called Amara's email twice. The subject line said, conversation. Amara didn't answer. She was on a bus with Elijah, staring out at a city that finally felt measurable. The old coach sat among framed photos and unpaid invoices that hope might one day settle. His phone rang. This is ESPN, a voice said. We want to talk about the girl named Shadow. Ramirez glanced at the cage through his window. Her name is Amara. By the next morning, the youth program inbox had 400 new applications and 20 donations. It came from people who had booed Amara the day before. Growth is messy like that. 2 days later, Victoria filmed an apology from her kitchen island. No makeup, no ring light. I was wrong, she said. I confused fame with merit. I disrespected a black girl and the craft I claim to love. The internet doesn't do forgiveness on command. The comments mixed grace and glee in equal parts. A mid-tier promotion slid a contract across Ramirez's desk. 3 fights, decent money, headline potential. Elijah read it twice. This buys time, he said. Amara nodded. Time is good. A reporter asked, "Are you just a striker?" Amara smiled, "I'm a listener. What does that mean?" "It means I hear mistakes before I see them." Her first pro bout sold out a small arena that smelled like popcorn and nerves. The chant started in round 3 and ended on the banners, "IMA, Raw." She didn't wave, she breathed it in and let it pass through her like wind. Second round, same economy, same mercy. The ref raised her hand again. No jumping on the fence, no throat slashes. Just about respect offered to a room that had doubted her on principle. At a press scrum, someone asked what she'd do with the bonus. "Pay rent," she said, then, "and start a fund for girls who can't afford mats." The room scribbled, not a quote designed for virality. It went viral anyway. In a rented condo that didn't echo like her old mansion, Victoria watched the replay alone. She paused it on the moment Amara knelt and spoke about respect. Some defeats keep playing until you learn the right lesson. A streaming service pitched a doc, Shadow, the black girl who taught the cage respect. Amara said no to the title, not black girl as a label. She told them, "Black as identity, girl as origin. Women as present," they changed it, she signed. At a community gym opening in West Baltimore, Amara took the mic. "This story isn't about revenge," she said, "it's about dignity. I don't fight to humiliate, I fight to make room. For all the girls told their hands should only hold quiet things." The room stood, Elijah stood last, so he could watch them all stand. Months later, under brighter lights and a bigger purse, Amara unified belts. Asked who she wanted to thank, she said, "Everyone who underestimated me. You made me study harder." Reporters laughed, then wrote it down like scripture. If you slow the footage to the last frame of her unifying win, you can see it. The moment Amara hears the crowd and chooses not to own it, only to honor it. Legends aren't loud, they are precise. If you've ever been underestimated, humiliated, or pushed to the edge of someone else's cage, remember this. You don't have to shout to change the room. You just have to step in, breathe, and let the truth do its work. If this story hit you anywhere between the ribs and the throat, subscribe. We tell true things in a world that too often rewards the loud. Next week, another chapter, not about revenge, about respect.